Well, there is a halachic technical answer and there is a Kabbalistic answer. First, we will start with the halachic answer. Shabbat is always the seventh day of the week without our input. However, when it comes to the months, God has commanded us and the High Court in the Torah that we should fix the months of the year. Now, that has a direct consequence on the festivals because the festivals are on specific dates within the Jewish month. Now, we know that the Jewish month follows the lunar cycle. It takes approximately 29.5 days for the moon to orbit the earth. Now, we can't have a new month starting in the middle of a day. In Jewish law, everything starts at the night. So therefore, a month can either be 29 full days or 30 full days. Now, originally there was no fixed calendar. So the way we determine which day was the first day of the month, the Sanhedrin, the High Court in Jerusalem, used to determine it based on the sight of the new moon of the following month, which that proved that it was the first night of the month. It could either be seen on the night of the 30th day, which means the previous month was 29 days, or the previous month could have been 30 days and the moon would have been seen on the night of the 31st. Now, once the High Court in Jerusalem established which day was the first day of the month, they had to disseminate this information to all of the inhabitants of Israel. Now, the way they did it, they didn't have WhatsApp and emails. They had to send shluchim, messengers, by foot or by carriage, to advise everybody about which day the first day of the month was. Now, it took to reach the furthest point in Israel from the High Court of Jerusalem, it took 2 weeks to reach the furthest border. So when it came the 15th day of the month, everybody in Israel knew when the first day of the month was, when Rosh Chodesh was. Now, therefore, they also knew when Pesach was and Sukkot was, because Pesach is on the 15th of the month of Nisan, Sukkot is on the 15th month of Tishrei. So everybody knew which day we should start Pesach or Sukkot. However, in the Diaspora, where the Shluchim didn't reach, they didn't know. They were in doubt. So therefore, they had to keep 2 days of Yom Tov. Now, in the 4th century CE, the sages fixed a Jewish calendar, which will last for thousands of years. So we know in advance when the first day of the month is and when the festivals are, everywhere, even in the Diaspora. But nevertheless, according to rabbinic law, Jews in the Diaspora are bound to keep 2 days of Yom Tov. As the Talmud says that the sages sent to the exiles, be careful to keep the second day of Yom Tov, to follow the custom of your forefathers. Now, Rav Hai Gaon, who was the undisputed halachic authority of the 11th century, explains that when the Talmud refers to the forefathers, it doesn't mean only to the times of the temple and the Sanhedrin, but it goes as far back as the time of the prophets and even to the times of Joshua. From then onwards, Jews in the Diaspora kept 2 days of Yom Tov. And we know that once a high court establishes a law and it's accepted by the Jewish people, in order to absolve that law, you need another high court that is greater in number and stature. And we haven't had such a high court which is greater in stature and number than the times of the temple, definitely not the times of the prophets. So we are still bound today in the Diaspora to keep 2 days of Yom Tov. It's interesting to note that the festival of Shavuot, the Torah doesn't say which day of the month it falls. It only says that you have to count 50 days from the day after Pesach. So if we know when Pesach is, then we should know for sure when Shavuot is, and there's plenty of time to know when Shavuot is, when the time of Shavuot comes. But nevertheless, in order not to differentiate between Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, the sages enacted that each of these three Yom Tov we have to keep 2 days. The Kabbalistic reason is that since holiness is more revealed in the land of Israel, so the festivals are more revealed and can be more absorbed in 1 day, while in the Diaspora it takes 2 days for that holiness to be absorbed. They use a metaphor of a bright torch. When it's brought close to an object, the light is concentrated and focused on a small area. But when the torch is illuminating from a distance, the light is weakened and dispersed over a larger area. So you might ask, why is Rosh Hashana, even in Israel, celebrated for 2 days? The answer is as follows: because Rosh Hashana is different than Sukkot and Pesach, because Rosh Hashana falls out on the first day of the month. So let's see the scenario. 29 days have passed of the month of Elul, the last day of the last month of the year, and it's the night of the 30th. Now, witnesses might come and say, we saw the first glimpse of the moon, and then tonight will be Rosh Hashana. And these witnesses might come tomorrow and say, we saw it last night. So retroactively, it's already Rosh Hashana now. So the High Court used to establish that on the night of the 30th, after 29 days, it's Rosh Hashana, just in case witnesses will come. Now, if the witnesses did come and say they saw the moon the previous night, so the first day, that day is Rosh Hashana, and the next day is a weekday. If they didn't appear, and only the next day is Rosh Chodesh, and therefore Rosh Hashana, so the previous day, the day that the High Court sanctified as Rosh Hashana, is a weekday. Now, because that first day is dependent on if the witnesses will come, the early prophets were concerned that the Jews would take it lightly. Therefore, from the time of the early prophets already, they established Rosh Hashanah to be 2 days, even in Israel, where we are prohibited to do work, we have to blow shofar and do all the prayers of Rosh Hashanah. Then you can ask, well, why is Yom Kippur, even in the Diaspora, only commemorated 1 day? Now, this is a very practical answer, because to keep 2 days of Yom Kippur means you need to fast for 2 days. And it is actually a sakana. It's dangerous. And the rabbis have actually discouraged. There were some that were very frum and kept 2 days, but the rabbis discouraged that, and they said that even in the times of our forefathers, where they were in doubt because of sakana, they only kept 1 day. We that know, based on the fixed calendar, which day is Yom Kippur, we don't need to be more frum than them and keep 2 days. So therefore, we only keep 1 day of Yom Kippur. Thank you very much.